So my dad has a long-standing tradition that whenever anyone in my family turns 13, we run a half marathon. And so I did my half marathon in 6th grade. We ran the Indy mini marathon together. But when you turn 16, my dad would ask each one of us whether we wanted to do a full marathon. And came time for 16, I said yes. And because of stuff I was doing in the summer and swim season that I had, we landed on the New York City Marathon. So the day of the marathon started up with us waking up, having very light breakfast, and hopping on the metro to the Staten Island ferry to get us over to the marathon. When we got there, the buses were ferrying people over to the New York Marathon Village, where people would set up and eventually would be released on the bridge. And then around 9 in the morning, our group was called to our starting location, and took about 10 minutes of waiting. They started all of us off. You cross the bridge from Staten Island to Brooklyn, and then you run up there for a large distance. And what was interesting is on the bridge, no one was allowed on there except the runners. So when we immediately stepped off into Brooklyn, we had tons of people, large groups of people gathered around, all with signs that said, "Welcome to Brooklyn," and everyone was, basically out on the streets cheering us on. And so that was incredible. And basically, it was like that, tons of live music as we were running up to Queens, and then we got dropped into Manhattan, and there were so many people. It was absurd. And it was, I think at that point, was the loudest it ever was during the race. So we ran up Manhattan and then crossed over into the Bronx, exited the Bronx at 21 miles, I believe. And then after that, you headed down Manhattan. You would go across and start making your way towards Central Park. They had basically all the flags of the people who had shown up from different countries lined up alongside. So once you reached the flags, you really knew that it was basically almost over, and that was a very emotional moment for my dad and I. We crossed the line a little over 4 hours with our hands held up high, and after that we made our way out of Central Park. That was the New York City Marathon. We had a professional marathoner who was giving a talk, and he said something that I really like, which is, during training, it's 90% physical, 10% mental, but during marathon, the actual marathon, it is 90% mental, 10% physical. And that's something that's I think is really important, because during the race, if you've trained well enough, you're probably going to be physically able to finish it, but it's really keeping in that in a mental space that you can basically regulate yourself so that you can finish.